Welcome. We are happy to have you all with us. Today, we're doing a webinar with Andrew Windham, and we're going to talk a little bit about your optimal financial world. We will share a little bit with you about the Family Enterprise Center, and then we will leave the majority of the hour for you, Andrew. So to get started, the Family Enterprise Center was founded in 1986, making it the oldest family enterprise center in the country. So at the time, family businesses were largely understudied and underserved, and we began with one clear purpose, and that was to be a trusted resource for family-owned enterprises. So a lot has changed over the last 40 years, and support for family businesses have grown. We have countless dedicated professionals helping family businesses with all of the challenges they face. But family businesses are so complex, and that's why we remain a vital partner by offering educational programs like the one we have today, as well as guided peer engagement and a network like no other. So whether you're the first generation building something new or a third generation stewarding a legacy, you belong here. So at the Family Enterprise Center, we offer a range of programs that are designed to support family businesses wherever you may be in your journey. And so those come into three primary categories. So we have our educational programs, which include webinars like this one, also in-person workshops, panel discussions, mini classes, and they are all partnered with experts who understand the unique challenges and opportunities of family-owned companies. Second, we have guided peer engagement. So these are our peer groups and our virtual roundtables, which provide confidential spaces to share expertise, get feedback, and learn from others that are at a similar stage in their journey. And then third, we build community. And so this ranges from casual coffee conversations to a more formal monthly newsletter, but these programs are designed to foster connections and keep you plugged into the network. So these programs, they are free to members and to try before joining. So if you are interested in joining one of our programs, scan the QR on the screen, because for nearly 40 years, we have been a trusted resource for family businesses, and we would love to work with you and your family business as well.
Thank you. It is such an incredible honor to be here with you guys, Sarah. And one of the things that I think is really unique about our presentation today, similar to the Family Enterprise Center when we first met, as I shared, and why I'm grateful you shared more about the history, is so often as business owners and entrepreneurs, we don't know what we don't know. Most importantly, we don't know that there's a resource like the Family Enterprise Center here to plug in for a community. And being a founder and entrepreneur is really, really lonely. And we're going to talk about that, especially when we do it in isolation today, from a finance perspective, but also just in a community of people who get who we are, get what we do. It's so much better to do things together. They say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go long, go together. And you sacrifice a little pace, but it's so much more fun and enjoyable, right?
So true.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about your optimal financial world. And as a little bit of a hint, we're going to help educate you a little bit around what a family office is. I think so often that we hear the term family office, but maybe we don't really know what it is. And so we have a really specific and clear definition of family office. It's where we assemble the best experts available. We provide an elite wealth management solution or framework that helps the families make smart decisions about their money, mitigate taxes, kind of important. We just hopefully all got our extensions or taxes filed yesterday.
Hopefully.
Take care of our heirs and the people that mean the most to us, and protect our assets so we can magnify charitable impact. When this is coupled with the ability to handle all the other aspects, what it allows you to do is to use amazing technology and talent available so that families who traditionally have not had access or the capability to a family office that billion-dollar families have had, we've got a disruption opportunity, and that's what we want to talk about today. So, how, as a driven entrepreneur, can you benefit from a high performing family office? That's what we want to talk about today. Now, I pondered putting a video up here I saw recently where there was a lizard that was actually trying to escape all of these snakes that were poisonous, deadly snakes. And I decided against that just for time. But I thought, it was really evident and metaphorical, if you will, for how we as business owners are. We feel like every day we get up, and the deeper we get in the day, the more people are grabbing for our time, or our focus, our attention, and the more problems and things that we have. So what I'd like for us to do to start off may seem a little bit weird or hokey, but you'll be okay. I'd like us all just to make sure our phones are out of the way, all of our distractions are out of the way. And I'd like us just to close our eyes for a moment and get really centered and take 5 deep breaths, inhale and exhale. And I'm going to do that with you. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you let it out, I would like you to imagine being a 10-year-old child that walks in to your parents' family business on December 1st, 1983. And when you walk in, you know something's different, but you're not quite sure. And you realize the longer time goes by, the days, the months, the years, and the calendar, you realize actually how important this day was, and maybe not in the most positive way. Unfortunately, I didn't have to imagine this. This was the day that I walked in on my father's birthday to learn that one of his 2 partners had given him the news just a couple of hours earlier that he was leaving the practice and he was taking half of the entire office staff with him. That was a tough day, especially for my father. And if you're with us today and you're a founder, you had moments that maybe are that big, maybe not as big. Maybe you went through a personal divorce. Maybe you've gone through a business divorce. But the collateral damage on top of all the stress and the things that give you can often become the people that we care about most, the causes that we want to support the most. And in many cases, if we can't get some foundation, we sacrifice an opportunity to make the impact that we were put here in the world to make. 38 years later, I now run a family office. And the reason that I run a family office is because I realized that my dad deserved an exceptional group of professional advisors who could take off all of the things that he wasn't so great at, but needed to be able to handle so that he could focus on his business, focus on the people he cared about most, had an opportunity to support financially, time, and otherwise the causes he cared about most, and to really make sure he got the maximum amount of juice out of the squeeze of life as he made an impact. A couple of years ago, I got a phone call and got a significant financial gift from my father. 6 figures. What a blessing. Unfortunately, I cried after I got off that call. And I cried because I would trade that gift in to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with my father. In life, we all have our own experiences, wounds, things that we have to learn, grow, and move on from. And as a founder and a business owner, the problem that I want to encourage you and inspire you to address today, to think about, is how you don't sacrifice all the things that really matter for all the things that constantly demand your attention in your business. The reality is the reason you started a business, if you're like most founders and entrepreneurs, is because you wanted to have freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, and how you want. And in many cases, you've started to build, unfortunately, unknowingly and often unnecessarily, a jail cell around you. So as we transition to talk about your optimal financial world, what type of professional is best for you depends on what you want, what's important to you, and also the complexity of your financial world. The thing that I've noticed is the more blessed we are from the size, the revenue, and hopefully the profit from your business, we tend to have a significant increase in people who want to help, maybe not in the best way possible. They see you as an opportunity to be able to create profit or revenue for their own business or solution. This leads to more pitches. And the more pitches you have, the more decisions you have to make. And there's nothing worse than a founder than to have somebody pitch you or show you another problem that you already don't have time to address the existing problems on your plate. And so sometimes it feels like you're going through life with a buffet and a plate that's only so big. And you see a problem, you go, ooh, I want to solve that. Ooh, I need to solve this. Ooh, I need to solve that. And meanwhile, while you add another problem or another strategy or another solution to your plate, another one's falling off. And oftentimes we feel guilty about that. We feel overwhelmed. We feel out of control. We feel stressed. And we take that out on the people that are around us. When we look at the most successful entrepreneurs and families, they have to have a way to dial in the focus. And so to have a good focus, we have to have a definition we can all agree on. And so I don't know what your definition of success is. It's different for everybody, but for today's purposes, we're going to say success, specifically relative to finances, is precision plus access plus implementation. Precision is the degree of certainty that within reason, you're able and willing to attain the appropriate financial goals. Access is your confidence that you'll get the outcomes that you want and that you need. Implementation is the degree to which you're able to achieve your desired results. So if we make it nice and simple and clear, precision gives you goals. Access gives you the results that you want. Implementation gives you the confidence. Okay? So I want to introduce you to what we call the wealth management hierarchy. Now, if you're on our webinar today, I'm going to assume that you don't get unqualified financial advice, meaning you don't lean on Twitter, Instagram, your favorite social, TikTok, which unfortunately tends to be where a lot of our younger generation get information, whether that's good or not. That's certainly relative to the source, right? And we're going to assume that you have a guy or a gal, or maybe a couple. So let's say you have an investment advisor, a single person, and they're good. Because why would you have somebody who wasn't good on your team? However, I want to make you aware that from a precision, access, and implementation to our right, when you have one single person, you have a limitation to your goals that are limited by the bandwidth of that single individual. That also means you have a limit to your confidence, and you can only achieve results consistently in a single area. That lack of time and focus means that we often subscribe to the myth that I'll get to it later or someday. And I like to use the analogy, if it matters, it's measurable. And specifically with dates, they go on a calendar. And I'm virtually sure that later or someday are not dates on a calendar that are specific enough to know, did you measurably meet your goal or not? So the truth is that later is always too late. And we all know stories of people who intended to get life insurance or intended to get a will or trust, and then something happened, and unfortunately we were left with the consequences of that procrastination. So when we get to this point, a lot of business owners and founders, you add a financial advisor. So this is somebody with a little bit more wider range of scope and capability. However, they still are limited. They've got more ability and bandwidth and expertise than the single focus, but the goals are bounded. There's incomplete confidence, and we're restricted with our results, again, by the expertise of the specific financial advisor or a couple of those. In this case, if you have a couple of guys or gals or financial advisors, think maybe a CPA, a financial planner, an investment advisor, et cetera, they don't talk, they don't interact, they all work in silos. The next stage is what we call a wealth manager. And this is where you have someone who coordinates all of the people, or at least has them talking. This makes our efforts much more extensive, but without you having to spend significantly more time. That means our goals can be more extensive. Our confidence is quiet now, so we don't have to, have a personal Tony Robbins in our pocket or a little motivational song or video to get us fired up. We're going to get it done. And our results, the range of those can really begin to expand. The place that we often find people bottleneck here, though, is we get an idea that this is good enough. And my question today for you is good enough for you? Is okay good enough? The truth is, as we expand our awareness and knowledge of what's possible, and that's one of the things that we want to do for you today, it's actually possible to have the best. And in today's world with technology, AI, and all of these things, while we have to be careful how we use those things, they give us the ability to scale and do a lot more things from a possibility perspective. And that's the idea of a virtual family office. It's comprehensive in nature. Your goals are maximized. You have authentic confidence, and we get comprehensive results. What this looks like is when you have an individual on your team that is literally leading all of the conversation on your behalf and making sure your deepest values, your highest priorities are always honored. And you have the ability to redirect a significant amount of focus to the people you love and care about the most, the causes that you deeply want to support and be involved in, and you can begin to actually appreciate the opportunity and the time to make an impact that's positive on the world. So, I think this begs the question, where do you fall on that? Do you need a high-performing virtual family office, or where you're at in your business and personal journey? A financial advisor, a investment advisor, or a wealth manager are important to you. And here's the reality. There's no best answer other than the one that's most appropriate for you. And I would tell you that really you're the best person to make that decision. So a high-performing virtual family office makes a lot of sense if and only if your life is full of lots of complexity. We'll talk about how you know whether that complexity exists or not, and how you know where to identify what might make most sense for you. We're going to start by doing that through the framework for what we call your high-performing virtual family office. So your optimal financial world includes precision, remember, goals maximized, access, authentic confidence, and implementation, comprehensive results. The first piece of the virtual family office framework is the human element. And this is where you would enjoy the benefit of moving from a product orientation to a customized, personalized solution. So, to give you an easy example you can relate to, this is not the person who calls you or helps you buy some life insurance because you're a nail and they're a hammer, and every solution can be solved by just the right amount of life insurance or some other type of insurance. We've all had that experience. A personalized solution is where we start and you craft the strategy, and then you identify, if you will, since we're coming off the masters, you decide which club and the way that you want to swing that club to get the desired shot or outcome that you're wanting. The next piece is a cohesive team. This is moving from I know someone or I have a guy or a gal to a coordinated elite group of professionals. Then we need a systematic process, not haphazard, not doing things isolated and then just kind of bundling them together and taking whatever we get, but actually a methodical process that's done with synergy, scale, and definitive outcomes. There are actually 9 pieces of these 3 levers in a virtual family office that ultra high net worth, super rich folks know that they need to measure the success of their family office by. The first is client-centered discovery. So when you think about the advisors that you currently have on your team, whether that be one or multiple, have you gone through an effort where they understand you at a deep level? The second is the communication coherent and connected? A great way to do a litmus test of this is we just came out of tax season. At what point did you have discussions around your tax strategy? And were they tied to where you're going as well as where you're at with a forward-looking, proactive, and holistic perspective? And then are those relationships deep and intimate? This is not somebody knows your bank, your checking account, or your credit card number to charge you for a transaction. This is somebody who knows your name. They maybe know things like your favorite color, your favorite beverage, the sports, the things that you enjoy spending your time. But more importantly, they know your wife, your kids, the causes that you care about, and your core capabilities that really make you an exceptional value to any situation when used well. As we move to the cohesive team, we measure, do they have the best of best contacts? So here we're not talking about C and D players or even B plus players. We're seeking best of best contacts, A plus players. We all deal with this in our business, and we know the value and the power of a multitude of A plus players. It just raises the experience and the outcome for everybody involved. Next, do you have preferential arrangement? Whether you're a rule follower or not, all of us never mind skipping the line and not standing behind all of our 100 favorite friends at Six Flags or Whitewater to get on a ride. That's why Disney, Six Flags, and all of these places sell fast passes. So do you have a preferential arrangement that can help you jump the line, so to speak? And do they have state-of-the-art capabilities? This includes technology, this includes knowledge, research, all of those different types of things that allow that cohesive team to have best of breed outcomes. Then, do we have a systematic process which includes addressing failures? Newsflash. 93% of the super rich families, when going through a stress test, fail in some shape, form, or fashion, which means that there's always an opportunity to improve and make progress. Do we identify those opportunities? And lastly, are we committed to continuous improvement? So these are the 9 elements that a successful virtual family office is constantly measuring their success by and working to improve. Now, in your chat, you've probably noticed that my assistant Debbie has dropped in a workbook, Your Optimal Financial World, but she's also dropping in a couple of articles. One of the things that we believe is really important is being a thought leader. And that's not pitching you on products and solutions. It's giving you very good, accurate information that you can relate to and understand. So one of the articles that you might see have posted earlier when we were going through the wealth hierarchy is actually a way to identify each of your advisors and which of the 4 types that they are. Because sometimes we can have somebody who's capable of playing in a family office or a wealth management atmosphere, but they're doing it alone because the majority of the people that are supporting you don't like to play in the same sandbox because of egos or other things. This is really key to figure out because you definitely want to keep A+ players when we find them. So if you'll download this Optimal Financial World workbook, what I want to do is I want to gift you an opportunity just to quickly self-assess, where are you with your current financial world? And so when you download that, you're going to see a workbook with pages right here. And we're just going to ask you to take an honest self-assessment in about 10 minutes or less. Because when we think about the productivity or the value of a GPS, you have to know 2 coordinates for it to be able to help you. The first is you have to know where you're at, and that requires us to be honest. It's why programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, the first thing you have to be willing to do is admit that you have a problem so that you are open and willing and humble enough to address the problem. So no matter where you are today, don't worry about that. There's no need to beat yourself up. We're just taking the first step in helping you self-assess where you're at. The second is, and we hope that we will be able to expand what you know and want to be true for you, is what is it that is the destination for you? And that's as customized as your business, the people that you care about, the causes that you want to support, and the impact you've been uniquely placed here in the world to make. So if you haven't downloaded that, I would encourage you to download that. Print it if you can. If you can't, pull a sticky note out or an index card or a pad or whatever your favorite device is, like an iPad. And we're going to walk through each of these areas. And what I want you to notice is we're going to use a really, really difficult and complex system, probably like what you learned in Head Start or elementary school. We're going to use the red light, green light, yellow light system. So hopefully you'll be able to relate, because I have to keep things simple for myself. And so as we go around each of these 9 things, you're going to give yourself a score between 1 and 10. 1 through 3 is red, which means that's definitely a risk area. And you're basically at a stop or a standstill, and we probably want to begin to address some momentum there. 4 through 7 is going to be yellow. And certainly if you're trending towards the upper side of that, towards a 7, then you've got positive momentum and an opportunity to move and to convert a yellow to a green, which is going to be 8 through 10. Now, I want to prepare you that if we go through this exercise and you have all greens, well, maybe you're a unicorn, but more likely we probably ought to be a little more realistic and honest with ourselves. So let's start with the human element, and we're going to consider these 3 areas. And if you'll just write down a number, or if you printed out your workbook, circle the number that you feel like best represents yourself. Let's start with the client-centered discovery. When you met the professional or the advisor that you're thinking of, or if you have a list of them, you're going to want to do this quickly in your memory. So that might be an accountant, a financial advisor, a financial planner. They're an attorney. There are a lot of folks that could be on your financial team. How well does your current set of professional or professionals, such as your accountant and financial advisor, truly understand you as a human being and not just your financial situation? So if you saw them, they would know your name, you would greet them, and you would think fondly of them if you saw them in the grocery store versus think about picking up your favorite can of Campbell's and chunking it at them in the head. So if your professionals hardly know you, that would be in the 1 to 3 scale. If they're at the other end of the spectrum, my professionals have a deep understanding of me and my loved ones and what's important to us, then you're going to err on the 8 to 9. And if you fall somewhere in between, pick the number that you feel is most representative between 4 and 7. The second area of the human element is coherent, connected communication. How well do your current professionals, especially if you have more than one, communicate with you on proposed solutions? 1 to 3, I'm often confused when talking to my professionals. By the way, this may show up where you feel stupid to ask questions because there's an ego or an inferiority complex. B, the other end of the spectrum, I always understand the solution and how it could benefit me and my loved ones. So this is where it might be a complex solution, but your advisor cares enough about you to simplify it so that you don't feel like maybe you're stupid or scared to ask a question. And if neither of those two extremes meet your situation, pick the number that's best, 4 to 7. Two of the 3 of the human element down, and now let's talk about deep, intimate relationships. What kind of personal professional do you have with your professionals? See, I think that's supposed to say what kind of personal relationships do you have with your professionals? So apparently we made a mistake, Sarah. It's horrible that I made the first mistake ever right here. But if you'll rate your personal relationship, are they strictly platonic and professional, meaning they're very sterile? It's a phone call, it's a need only type of deal. That's a 1 through 3. If they're trusted relationships personally and they're always highly professional and customized, and they can call you or your kid by name and know what kind of sports and things your families do, they're going to be on the 8 to 9. And if they're somewhere in between, pick the most appropriate number. The third lever that we want to compare is the cohesive team. So moving to the best of best contacts. How often do your professionals work with a top specialist in fields beyond their own expertise to deliver you the best available solution? So if your professionals do not seem to offer any particular special expertise or solutions, let's think like relative to our healthcare, everybody is a generalist, that internal medicine, even if you might need some specialty, like you've got some heart issues or some other significant health issues. But if all of your professionals are more on the generalist side, then they're going to be 1 to 3. If you have professionals that are quick to bring in other state-of-the-art experts and solutions and approaches to add depth, breadth, perspective, and second opinions, so they make sure that your outcome is in your best interest, those are going to be 8 to 10. And we all probably have 1 or 2 folks that fall somewhere in the middle, depending upon the scenario. Pick your number. And you'll probably notice in the chat that Debbie's going to drop another knowledge nugget, if you will, for how you could identify the best of best professionals, whether it be financial, legal, etc. The fifth area we want to look at, tied to the coherence piece, is preferential agreements. How often do your professionals help you jump the line when it comes to getting the solutions you need? So let's say you're a busy professional. Somebody knocks on your door, makes an offer unexpected on your house. It's higher than you could imagine. And now all of a sudden you need an expert, real estate agent, mortgage broker, etc., to work collectively together to be able to help you find that new forever home or for now home, and to manage all the financing and things that go with that. So if you never really get any special treatment, that's 1 to 3. But if you could have that situation happen and you know exactly who you would call, and if you didn't know one of the pieces that you needed, but you could trust that professional to bring those others together and work together for your best outcome, that's going to be an 8 to 10. And if you fall somewhere in between there, that'll be a 4 to 7. Pick the number that's best for your situation. And now let's consider state-of-the-art capabilities, the 6 of our 9. Do your professionals provide or have access to the deepest expertise and very best solutions available? So this is where okay is not good enough, okay? If your professionals always work by themselves in isolation, and this is an example where I'm not picking on CPAs, but sometimes we're working with a CPA and we outgrow our CPA or another advisor because they're working in a small isolated scenario by themselves. That would be a 1 to 3. If conversely, your professionals have extensive networks of other professional advisors in a wide range of areas, both financial and, here's the key, non-financial. This might even be somebody who's great with marriage counseling or psychology around your identity being wrapped up in you are a business owner versus also being a husband and a parent and those types of things. If you have people on your team that could help you, avail you to that and understand you deeply and make those available, they're an 8 to 10. And if in between there, those extremes, you'll pick 4, 5, 6, or 7, whichever is most appropriate. Now, the third lever is a systematic process. And again, we're going to do 1 to 10 on the scale, and we're going to start with addressing failures. The reality is there is no perfect plan. Do your professionals use a systematic process to catch and correct any failures and to monitor your situation on an ongoing basis to help ensure that your financial and your related situations are being effectively managed? So one example is, we know with the Trump administration coming in, there has been conversation, legislation, lots of talk among all the other things going on with tariffs or also with tax planning. Do you have some systematic ways to catch how those things are going to impact you and to have a systematic process to proactively address those? If you don't feel like you have a systematic process, your intuition's probably right, and you should choose 1 to 3. If you know where you would go and you kind of know a general process of some kind, that might be a 4, 5, 6, or 7. But if you know absolutely, because you proactively, holistically, and comprehensively addressed concerns in the past and currently, then those are exceptional folks and are probably an 8, 9, or 10. Our 8th area is identifying opportunities. One opportunity I have never found an entrepreneur founder, and you could be the exception to the rule, but I have generally never found an entrepreneur founder who would not like to increase their profits and reduce the amount of expenses, most importantly, their largest expense, which is taxes. So if your professionals never seem to consider more than one option, or they provided some options right after you came on board, but there's really no other discussion, then they're a 1, 2, or 3. If your professionals are always bringing you basically a solution or strategy bank list that you can seemingly never get to the end of because they're constantly looking for solutions, that will give you positive impact and better results with the outcomes, those are 8, 9, or 10. If you fall somewhere in between with your advisors, you'll select 4 through 7 and just pick the one that's best for you. Our 9th area is continuous improvement. The reality is, if we're not moving forward, if we're not making progress, we are sliding backwards. Do you have professionals that evaluate your solutions to determine whether you're on the best possible course or whether an alternative would be more appropriate or effective given the changing landscape? 1, 2, 3 is my professionals have never evaluated one strategy or another to determine its viability that's best for me. 8, 9, or 10 would be your professionals systematically and annually or on a recurring, consistent basis evaluate strategies to determine whether they will achieve your goals in the most effective and cost-efficient manner. If you fall between those two extremes, you'll pick 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay. So I kind of alluded that if we got to this point and we had those little imaginary red, yellow, and green stickers from your local Office Max or Staples, and you were putting those on your workbook around this thing, if they're all green, maybe we need to have a honesty assessment with ourselves. But the reality is, most of you, they're not all green. And that's actually not bad. That's good because we've identified where we're at. And now we have an ability to try to decide how we might want to approach that. So today, which I believe, if I check my watch, is the 16th of April, the day after taxes. If we go out 5 years into your financial world future, there are actually only 4 outcomes. In our mind, we may think that we can move sideways, but the reality is, at one end, we have an optimal financial world. We have financial security. We could have financial insecurity, or we could have a financial mess. The reality is, if you do nothing different moving into the future to address any of the areas that you have self-assessed that might need some attention, you will begin to actually drift. The degree of drift will depend on how much or how little you do. If you play the ostrich head in the sand game, then it's likely you could wake up after that drift over that 5 years and have opportunities that were once possible, now impossible, to get those back into the realm of possibility. They're costly, they're risky, and they're even harder than they ever were before. So one of the things that's important is, regardless of where you're at, you should ask yourself, would an increase in the quality of your team and the comprehensive nature of your team, and if they're more proactive, if they could help you jump the line early so that we didn't get out here around where the word drift is and then try to figure out how to make a path back towards financial security, the path to jump the line is a lot easier. Secondly, if we take decisive action, we can ride the curve of momentum. And if you're like a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners I work with who are never okay with where we're at, we're constantly, kind of beating ourselves up and not celebrating our wins because we want to go faster and faster and faster, then I have a solution that might be worth consideration, and that's called a stress test, which is one of the things that the super rich do. And that can allow you with a virtual family office within a year to actually accelerate and begin to experience the benefits of an optimal financial world. Now, if you're scratching your head wondering about the stress test, the super rich understand that stress tests are essential. And 93.5% of the super rich, meaning they have $500 million in assets or greater, according to this 2017 study by Russ Allen Prince, who's kind of the godfather, if you will, of family office in modern day, and John Bowen with CG Insights. 93.5% actually do a stress test. and 6.5% don't. The super rich rationale for stress testing is we want to avoid potentially destructive situations, and we want to ensure that we're not missing any opportunities. All our I's are dotted, all of our T's are crossed. The need for stress testing comes from wealth plans are easily dated and circumstances change. The level of your business success and profits, which impact the level of your family's assets. And you can also go through changes in family relationships. Wealth planning is often done incrementally, especially when we don't have advisors working cohesively. So we can get a piecemeal process, lack of synergy, opportunities for cost reduction go by the wayside. And the last piece is wealth planning is not as efficient and as good as it could be. And this is where you can have potentially pretenders, people who really intend to be helpful and they want to be helpful, but they're limited by that bandwidth of knowledge, experience, expertise, and exposure. And the exploiters, these are the folks that they don't tell you the whole truth. They tell you just enough to paint the situation so you make the decision that benefits them better. And so this is also where we may have a availability of superior solutions, and we may be too focused on technical wizardry, like running a million different calculations just to seem like we're doing something, versus really making sure that every decision is aligned with your deepest values and your highest priorities, or said another way, the human element. So here's kind of what a stress test looks like. And by the way, there should be an article in the chat for you to learn more about a stress test and what might go into that and how the super rich do that. But it starts with profiling, evaluating existing and proposed services and products. This does not mean that it is done with a bias or an intention with a desired outcome. It is objective. It is literally a status of what's the current status. Then it's a evaluation of alternatives. Okay, so we understand the assumptions, we make sure that they're aligned with the goals, and we calculate the cost structure. Then we address alternative services, products, or solutions, and we evaluate is what we're doing best in class and best in your need, or would there at least at minimum be a recommended course of action to consider to augment or to improve the progress or efficiency. So as we wrap up today, and to honor your time, I want to end with the question, do you want to optimize your financial world? We believe that anyone can build an amazing life of significance. That includes taking care of the people you care about, contributing to the causes that are important to you, and making a positive difference in the world. We also believe you can achieve this amazing life of significance faster and with less effort than you ever thought possible. If during our time today, you've identified some areas, or you said to yourself, I think I would like to have a second opinion, or what we would call a stress test, you have an opportunity to be able to just raise your hand and let us know. And we will also gift you with a complimentary copy of your Optimal Financial World digital workbook. If you raise your hand and you would like to have the stress test or get a second opinion, I would encourage you, prior to us doing that you read through and get the Reader's Digest version, if you will, of your Optimal Financial World, is because that will allow you to really maximize the juice out of the squeeze and get the most for your best benefit. By the way, this is not an offer, a pitch to do anything other than to let you know where you're at and to help you see possibilities. So as we wrap up today, I want to kind of finish like we did at the beginning, where we started with you envisioning something. This time, I want you to picture a day when you have a team of professionals providing coordinated solutions that address your financial situation. Picture a day when you have a wealth management team or a virtual family office that combines exceptional wealth management with robust attention to administrative and lifestyle matters. Picture a day when you have a virtual family office, literally built to protect your wealth and make your life a whole lot easier and more enjoyable, i.e., 15 minutes a month managing all of your personal finances. You're an appointment away from that reality. If my father had done the stress test, if my father had sought outside help, counseling, emotional support, my father would not have managed his entire financial life by not trusting other people. And my father likely would have been more present. And when I got that gift from my father, I likely would have been able to enjoy it even more. You see, I believe he and our family would have ridden through those challenges much more successfully and intimately. Unfortunately, he didn't. But like him, you deserve a trusted advisor who helps you, that takes care of the people you love, supports the causes you care about, and will help you maximize the impact you have in the world. You deserve the ability to optimize your financial world so you can lead an amazing life of significance. And I'm really grateful for your time today. So if we have questions in the chat, I don't know if we can see those, Sarah, or are there any questions that you have, of course, but I would love to quickly address those or answer those. I would encourage you to take advantage of the stress test if you would like, and make sure you click on those links. And by the way, there's a lot more of that thought leadership that I'm looking forward to helping you guys share with our families.
I think one of the takeaways that I really liked from this, Andrew, is this idea of comparing your finances to your physical health, and that, yeah, you do need a general practitioner. That's a great place to start. But once you start getting in there and you realize, maybe I have food allergies, maybe I have heart problems, maybe I have something wrong with something in my hand. Like, you have to go find other people, and knowing that you have that general practitioner that can make those connections for you and wants to see you be successful in those other ways is really the distinction between being in the red and the yellow and then making it to the green. So I love that analogy.
Thank you. And, and I think an easy parallel to that is, do we have somebody that their only solution is just go get medication or take a pill? Or are they willing to love you enough to tell us what we need to hear? Like, hey, let's cut back on the processed stuff. Let's take a walk with our loved ones 45 minutes every couple of days. Let's get in bed a little earlier.
Yeah, that idea of radical candor there.
Yeah.
Honest with you to build you up.
For sure.
I think that's a great way to go about it. So thank you for sharing all of this. And for those who are on the call and those who had registered, we'll share the workbook with them so they can reach out to you if they have any other questions. Yeah, so thank you for all of this. Is there any questions from the audience before we wrap up? All right, maybe not, but if you do, we'll probably see more of Andrew as we move into the later part of 2025. So please come and join us for additional conversations. Until next time, we'll have a great day.
Thank you.